Microphone check, 1, 2, 3. See movement on the microphone, so that's good. Now let's scare everyone by turning on the camera. Hi, how are you? So yeah, we got about 1:40 there. I was waiting for someone else to show up who needed this assistance. Hopefully they'll pop in here as we get started. But the request was, they had cloned out a hard drive a couple of times using sector by sector copying, and it will not boot when they put the hard drive into the computer. So there's usually what happens is BitLocker is turned on, and so you have to go put the old hard drive back in, turn on BitLocker, or turn off BitLocker, let it decrypt everything, and then do the sector by sector copy again. You have an antivirus installed, so you need to disable those, and you can do that. Or some of the other things that pop up is just no matter what you do, it just doesn't copy the BCD files, because the BCD files are your boot files, and they are locked usually to a particular hard drive in a particular partition. And sometimes when you clone them, they don't exactly move over properly. Hello. So that's what this video is all about. Let me get rid of that countdown timer there, since I am live already. So I'm going to be using a virtual machine. Your experience with your own computers may vary. These are the commands on Notepad that I use to fix the BDC file after cloning a hard drive and it fails to boot. Thank you. So when it fails to boot, then I have to boot the computer from a USB flash drive with Windows 10 or Windows 11. And then you go into repair mode, and then you come into these options here, and you'll want to go into troubleshoot, and you'll want to go into advanced options. You want to go into command prompt. In this case, it took me right to the C drive, which is perfectly fine because this is a virtual machine. It's running live. However, when you boot from a USB device, it's probably going to come up with X, and that's where you want to make sure you've changed it to the C drive. Make sure it's there, and the first thing you're going to do is check to see, does this folder have, or this drive have Windows? If it does not, proceed to the next one, which is going to be D, and then the next one is E, and then the next, until you find that folder that says Windows. So once you find that, that's what you're looking for. Then you know this is the one you have to work for, because the notepad I showed you, you'll see where it's talking about C Windows. That will have to be the directory in which the Windows folder is located. There's the person I'm looking for. So like I said, once you boot your computer from a USB flash drive, you change it to the C drive, you do a dir command, which is directory. You're going to look for that Windows folder. Yeah, that's first thing, and if it's there, great. If not, you move to the D drive, and if it's not there, you move to the E drive, and you do the dir command again, and you're looking for that folder, because that's the one. In this particular case, it is C, but if it was D, then you're going to have to change this to D, and you're going to have to change this to D, and you're going to have to change this to D. So this is why. Is this a spinning disk drive? This is for converting over from a spinning drive to an SSD. And a lot of times these boot files get locked to a particular drive and a particular partition, and when you clone them, even though it's a sector by sector clone, the computer goes, well, this is a different hard drive, so I'm not going to listen to you. And this is why you need to do this on occasion. It happens to me probably out of 10 times, I want to say every 2, I have to go in and do this process. And so this is what I'm, Nightshade is here. This is who requested this video. So once you find your Windows folder, this is where this notepad's going to come in, and I'll make this available when I put it onto the YouTube channel. I'll put these notes on here too. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a disk part, because you need to look for the hidden folder. Yes, it might come in handy for this. So once you get into disk part, you're going to list your volumes. And you see we have volume 0 is the DVD drive, volume 1 is the C drive, and then there's this hidden folder, or this hidden partition is in FAT32, and it's hidden. Most of the time, this is where your boot configuration files are going to hide, is in that hidden partition FAT32, and I believe that says 200 megabits, and I've got it noted out on here. For myself, you're looking for the FAT32 volume, and it's going to be 260 megabits to 500 megabits. In this case, it's 200 virtual machines. Sometimes they do it a little bit different, and it is hidden. So that's what we're looking for. We're going to select that drive. Select, whoops. Oh. Okay, that's what I wanted. So we're going to select volume 2. Now that we have selected volume 2, the next thing we need to do is assign it a letter. So we're going to assign it letter T. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it.
Gift received. Thank you.
Oh, I forgot I can't paste it. So we're going to assign it. So let me go back here and look at it again. Assign letter equals assign letter equals T colon. And that should assign it. And the way we find out that if it's assigned, what we do is we exit, and then we now go into the T drive. And there it is. There's the T drive. And if we do a dir command, you'll see there's the EFI folder we're looking for, which is what the next thing is. So what you're going to do is you're going to change into this particular folder. This folder name is going to change a little bit from computer to computer. You're going to have to make a judgment call. So it's usually best to go one folder in at a time. So we're going to go into CD EFI, and that's correct. And then we're going to go into Microsoft. So CD-Microsoft. Couldn't find it. So let's see why. I didn't capitalize, I bet you. CD Microsoft. There we go. And we're going to do the dir command again. And there's the boot folder. So we're going to go into the boot folder. And there we are. And we're going to do a dir command. This should be every file that's in here. This is going to look very familiar if you do this work a lot. These are basically all the commands to make your computer boot up, and it's going to be location specific. So it's going to come to the BDC file, and then it'll reference the keyboard. There's the English. So if you're using Dutch, it'll do Dutch. If you're using Japanese, it'll use Japanese. That's where that comes into. So, but we need to see the BCD file. In this case, we can already see it. But this is where you would do the attrib file. So we're going to do attrib, and we need to unhide. Hate when I'm typing in the wrong window. Attrib boot manager. Boot manager dot star, and then you're going to unhide it, unsystem it, and unarchive it. Hopefully that will show it up when you do the dir command. And there they are. That's these files here. That's what you're wanting to look for. If you could see those files, that means that it did copy it. It probably just needs to be corrected. So instead of going through all of this first, we're going to do the not a problem, Dylan. So before doing this, like I said, we want to look at the BCD file. So we're going to do BCD edit, and this is going to be where you're going to find the error. See up here where it says partition T? That's because we unlocked T and now the computer is going, okay, so we're going to go to partition T, which is that hidden folder, and this is the folders it's looking, or the file it's looking for to boot your computer. If it says unknown, That's where the problem is. This is why it will not boot. It's because, again, it's looking for the old hard drive. It's looking for the old partition. It's looking for all of that stuff. So there's a couple different ways to do this. Is once you've got it attribbed, you could do the rename command, and you're going to rename the BCD to BCD old. And then you're going to use this command to rebuild the BDC. So you're going to do the BCD boot, and then you're going to copy it, and this is where this is going to change. That's why I told you to look for that Windows folder first. So if that Windows folder is in your C drive, that's where you're going to do. If not, it's going to be D. If it's going to be E, that's where you need to go. And then you're going to tell it to do from Windows, Language, Systems, and then you're going to go to the newly created T drive. We've unhidden it. We're going to tell it boot fix all. And that should fix it. You're going to do the BCD command again, and hopefully this will then say partition T, and then this will all be correct. And if it is, like I said, because this is your boot manager, this is when Windows loads up. If these say partition T once doing it, then you're good. Then you can just exit out of it, boot to Windows normally, and it should work. If it did not, then what you have to do then is a more dramatic step. So this is where the next step comes in. And I'm not going to do it because I don't want to ruin my virtual drive. But the next step is you would go back to just your plain straight up T command. Oh, I forgot. Gotta go back. You would go back to your T drive. And then you have to do a more destructive process. And then that's where this is. So you would format T file system FAT32. And it's going to ask you when you do that, what is the name of this volume? When you list at this part, it'll tell you what the name of the volume is. If it doesn't have a volume name, you just press enter. If it does have a volume name, and a lot of times it does, especially when you're dealing with computers that are off the shelf at big box stores, it'll be like System Reserve. It'll be something of that nature. Image recovery. You have to put that volume name in exactly, or it will not let you format that partition. Once that partition is formatted, then you could do this command, and it will completely rebuild the BDC file. And it'll create it fresh, and then you'll come back in to do the BDC edit, and it should look very much like this. It will then recognize that the partition C is the boot manager, and go on further down, and everything will start lining up. Once you've got that, and you've gotten that taken care of, so you could see that, then you're going to run these other commands, because you want to do the boot record fix MBR, which if you're using a GPT drive, MBR is not going to do anything. It'll just say, yeah, I did that operation. And then you're going to do fix boot, just to make sure. And then you're going to do the scan OS. And the scan OS may or may not find your drives, or your Windows drive. If it does, it'll say bracket 1 bracket, and it'll give you the name. If it finds multiple copies, and that happens on occasion where you see Windows and then Windows.old, you'll see bracket 1 bracket, and then like C:/Windows, and then you'll see bracket 2 bracket C:/Windows.old. So that's why you got to kind of, and either way, it's fine, because it's automatically finding it. That's a good sign. But if you don't see it, it happens. So the next step is you're going to do the BCD rebuild BCD, and that is if that's going to go in and correct the BCD file just in case there is an error, even though you looked at it and it looks good. I'm going to post it on YouTube. Like I said, this is where you're going to go and look at it and say, you've looked at it, it looks good, but doing that rebuild of the BCD file it's going to catch anything that we're humans. We're going to overlook because we're in a hurry. We're doing this. We're trying to get it up and running. Once that's done, then you should be good. My next thing is, as a test, you're going to then use the make directory command, and you're going to do it to the drive that has Windows. So if it's your C drive, you're going to do this. So it's md make directory c:// scratch. Scratch is important because when you do the DISM commands, you have to reference that scratch directory. So the next thing is the DISM. You're going to look for the image. You're going to do c:. So that's where you're going to look for is the image file that is hidden in the Windows folder. You're going to give it the working directory of scratch, and you're going to clean up the image. And this command here is important because a lot of the times when you clone a hard drive, even sector by sector, there's actually a Windows update pending in the background. Revert pending actions stops that update from going through immediately. It pauses it. Once this is done, and it may or may, if it fails, that's fine. If it works, that's fine. All of these commands are, you're just going to do them. Simply because I don't know why it works. It just does. Even if it fails, most of the time it works. The next thing you're going to do is the DISM command, and you're going to do the cleanup and restore health. We're going to do the boot record fix MBR. Like I said, if you're using a GPT hard drive, not going to matter. Fix boot. You're going to scan it again. Once it's done, you're going to do this one. This one is going to be critical. This is your system file checker. If system file checker runs, then you've got the boot configuration file repaired correctly. If it fails, then you go back and you do this process all over again. The check disk is just if you want to do a check disk. But the system file checker, it should go through and it'll say either I can't do this because I can't find the files, and that means it's a complete failure of the BCD file, so you got to go back up to the top and go back through this step by step again. If it goes through and gives you like an error 87, I can't find a part of the files. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's where you want to kind of, just be aware there might be a problem later on. But let that command run. When that command is successfully ran, even if it only gets like to 80% or something, you should be golden at that point. At that point, you're just going to exit out, and then you're going to continue into Windows. 98% of the time, it will boot right into Windows once you've corrected the BCD file, even after doing a sector by sector cloning of a spin drive to an SSD. That's the only thing I can think of. And it, like I said, 2 out of 10 times I come across this problem where I have to boot the computer from a flash drive, Windows 10, Windows 11, go into repair mode, go into advanced tools, go into this whole process of repairing it, and then usually once I get the BCD file working, it boots. Absolutely boots. If it doesn't, do it again. And don't be surprised if you do this 2, 3, 4 times to get it to take. I don't know why this is. I don't know if, like I said, if this is where BitLocker is installed and it's fighting against you. I don't know if this is where you have an antivirus and you forgot to turn it off before you cloned it. But yeah, I am 10 out of 10 times of doing it. I remember you telling me this is why I'm doing this particular tutorial. So again, like I said, if you've cloned it sector by sector before you put it back into that computer. Now, when I do cloning, you've all seen me do cloning. I pull the hard drive out of the computer I'm working on, hook it up to my own computer, and then put the SSD to it. I run that clone from my computer. I don't run it from the donor computer or the client's computer. I run it directly off mine. So, all right, let me go through here. The pieces I'm having issue is I have cranks on the side of them, so they're so old. It was funny. Our silent partner, investor into the business, and he's been a partner with us since the beginning. Has no knowledge. He knows how to use a computer. He's pretty much he's older than I am. He knows the basics, but that's about it. He's an old steam engine guy. So when I ended up getting him a newer computer, because that was back in the days when Vista retired, and he ended up getting a new computer, and I took him up to a more modern Windows 7, which I knew which would eventually upgrade to 10. Um, with that, the ongoing joke is he went from steam power or coal power to a nuclear powered computer. And he really liked it. It was quick and it was fast, and I've had to do some maintenance through it through the years, but yeah, I mean, other than that, and then when he decided to go back to college, he needed to have a laptop, and so I got him the best laptop I could get him, for what he needed it for, and of course that laptop is Windows 11. Windows 10 and Windows 11, from a techie standpoint, pretty similar. From a person who is not computer savvy, it just drove him nuts. And of course, the last time he went to school, you know, you still had books. Everything now is all online. It took him a long time to figure out how to get to classes online and do, what do they call it? It's what we call whiteboard, but it's a digital whiteboard, and attend lectures and online and participate in student group assignments through Teams. And so he was like, this was all, he wanted to drop out so many times. Because the technology from when he was in school till now was just so vastly, completely different. It was like, and this is his alma mater that he's got a master's degree back from the 80s. And the school, and he still goes down there and he does instructional, 2 times, 3 times a year. From the class that he graduated, he goes and does hands-on tutorials for his class. How to properly transplant a tree, how to properly trim a tree, the different types of trees there are, and so on. And so it's a part of his horticulture. If you're doing this, how to make your tomatoes grow the best, or why we put this type of tree and plant together in this type of soil. This was his stuff, and he learned it the old-fashioned way. And so now it's all online, and you don't do field work at all. And he went back to his alma mater. He was like, you all are just doing this wrong. So it was kind of funny. But he's still going at it. He finally got it. He goes, there were so many different courses that were there that were not when he was in there. There you go. Yep. That's what I do too. I always pull the hard drive from the client computer, clone it, and I use my own computer to clone it. That way I can watch and monitor. And if there's a problem, I can usually jump up on it. So, but yeah, that notepad there, I'll try and send you those commands. If anyone wants those commands, I will send those to them. It'll also be a part of the YouTube video description when I pull this video down for YouTube. And this way you have those commands to give you guidance as you're going through this. But yeah, that's what you do. You boot up from a USB flash drive, you go into the advanced or repair, and then advanced options, and then you go into command prompt and you start going through these different options. I hear you. There are days. Again, I use the Anomia Partition Assistant. It's one that's listed for sale in my website. I do get a kickback from that. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what I use, but it's the same concept. You're doing a sector by sector copy of a mechanical drive to a SSD. And for me, like I said, 80% of the time it is flawless. When it fails, I go and do the BCD stuff. And, every once in a while I will get one. If you were here watching my lives earlier this week, I was doing a repair or upgrade from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10. And I was going through this whole process of prepping it before cloning, which is, removing unnecessary software, making sure there is no antiviruses on there. So they were all free software. So I took them off. I went through, and of course this is Windows 8.1. So BitLocker is not an issue at this point. I went through and checked everything and updated the drivers, made sure it had, whatever software it can get from Microsoft, even though those servers are probably turned off. And still, it gave me problems. And it got to a point, I had other service calls, so I had to end the live. So I got it back around to looking at it, and I ran Crystal Disk. Crystal Disk, of course, says the hard drive has partially failed. Well, I knew that. Just by the way it was acting. But I opened up Disk Manager and looked at it, and there was a whole 500 gigabyte, roughly, section of the hard drive that just blew out. All of it gone. Like, you had your C drive, you had your boot partition, you had your reserve, and like 217 gigabytes of hard drive space. That was the C drive was still there and intact. But from that point on up to the system reserve was gone. It blew out. It was like, So I tried to clone it. Just could not get it to clone because that big chunk of missing hard drive, even though it was a sector by sector, it was too extensive of damage for even Anomi's partition assistant to copy it. So I just ended up putting a new hard drive in it and loading up the operating system, and used her old hard drive because I had access to it, and just copied her personal files over. It was the only thing I could do. I couldn't clone it, no matter what I did. This was, in fact, it never made it through the Anomi partition assistant. It would get partway through and it said we ran into an error and can't continue. So try that. Like I said, I will put this on YouTube. Same name on YouTube. It's Computer Garage LLC. I will list it in my live playbacks, and I will probably list it into... I've got playlist, and I can't remember what it is. I don't think I'll put it in education and training, or I might, but obviously it's going to be a long video. But that's what I do, and it's going to, like I said, and if you do that 3 or 4 times and you still can't get it, then the hard drive just it can't be cloned. It's got too much damage, and there's nothing you could do about it. But if those hard drives, you put them back in, the old spin drives, and they spin up and boot, like I said, then go back to that, make sure the BitLocker is not active, and if it is, uninstall it. Make sure that every antivirus you could think of is not there. Because I can't tell you how many times I've looked at people. No, I've only used the Windows one. You look and they've got super anti-spyware. They got malware bytes in the background. Okay, that's good. Crystal Disk reports is in good condition. That's good. So it's probably, like I said, once you've cloned it, it's got to be a BCD issue. And like I said, I see that way too many times. Like I said, 2 out of 10 times when I clone a hard drive, it's a BCD issue, and that's why I brought that up. And like I said, that information here will be there on the screen, on the video, and of course on the YouTube channel. I can put the full details into it. So, but those are the commands I use to fix the BDC file. And like I said, sometimes I got to do it 2 and 3 times before it clicks and catches, and it boots just fine. But I bet you that's what it is. If you take that SSD, boot that computer, plug that SSD in, boot it from a flash drive, go into that command prompt setting and do the BCD edit, I bet you it's telling you unknown in that partition. It doesn't know where to look because it's not the same hard drive. And that has to do with BIOS. A lot of the security settings in BIOS will do that. Oh, this is not da-da-da-da. So you got to go in, like I said, and change the BDC file to match what the BIOS is saying. But that's my take. So, like I said, that's what I have to do. I hope that helped. It'll drive you nuts. I don't have anything officially on the schedule tomorrow, so if you need to email me, text me, whatever, I'll do what I can. But, it's a Wednesday, like it's a Monday. Things will pop up, I'm sure. So, just to let you know. But that's what I do. Those are the commands I do to repair the BCD file. Oh, there are times, there's just times. I've got a desktop on here this young man brought in, and he's probably about 25, 26. It's a cyber power desktop, and he'd been gaming with it for a long time. Now it won't display a video, and I put it on the bench and I tested it. I changed the video. I popped out the memory. The motherboard does not have LED diagnostic lights, so you have to listen for a beep code. So I had to plug a speaker in to get a beep code, and the beep code gave me 1.3. I'm going, oh, that's not good. And I looked it up, and it's saying no video detected, but I'm looking at the video card. And so I took the video card out, put an unpowered video card in, still no results. It gave me the same beep code, no video, and I'm going, ugh. So I noticed something though. I would turn it off, flip the power switch off, flip the power switch back on, and I would notice that a part of the RGBs on his motherboard would kind of light up in the corner, but the rest of it wouldn't. I'm going, uh-oh, this might be a fault with the motherboard. He might have blew a trace line. And I am not an expert on how to find trace lines. I don't even know how to do that. There are people on TikTok who show you how to do this all day long. How to fix these trace lines and find out what component is damaged. Not me. I am not that skilled with doing soldering work. I'll screw it up even worse. So yeah, I mean, I popped out his CMOS battery. I did the clear reset BIOS. Put in different video cards, tested one memory stick at a time. Checked the power supply. The power supply is pushing the power to the graphics card and to the main board and to the 8-pin on the motherboard. I even checked the SATA connector to make sure they were getting, because my tester will do that. Yeah, nothing. I mean, it boots up, it spins, it sounds like it's booting, because now that I got a speaker plugged into it, you can hear the BIOS beep where it's clearing, but no video, none whatsoever. And the video on the motherboard doesn't work because the CPU doesn't have the graphics capability. So he got a high-end graphical, or a high-end processor without the built-in graphics, so you can't use the motherboard video graphics to test it. So, but yeah, I get to break his heart, unfortunately, tomorrow. It's replace the motherboard, replace the computer, probably. Which he'll probably not want to hear. He's probably had it, though. Like I said, he's probably 25, 26, so he's probably had this a good 7, 8 years. So, yeah. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So, but those, again, to reiterate, those are the commands I use. And like I said, 8 times out of 10, I'll clone it sector by sector. I got to do this step afterwards. So it's a pain in the butt. And like I said, you might do it 3, 4 times before it clicks. But that's what I do. And the sad thing is if I could remote in and see it, but you can't remote into it when it's in safe mode or repair mode, unfortunately. So if I ask you for photos, just send me photos. But yeah, those are the steps to do. Any other questions? Comments? I'm off like a prom dress. I'll take a tackle this first thing in the morning. I should be available first thing in the morning. Short of an emergency service call coming in, I don't think I have anything on the schedule for tomorrow, other than returning phone calls and getting product back. So, like I said, you can text me, you can email me, you can message me, and as soon as I'm done with this, I will get it uploaded to YouTube, and it should be available for you. In 45 minutes, it's probably going to take YouTube a while for it to upload. So, but yeah, again, you're probably just going to catch that beginning of the video and use that a lot. Not a problem, Nightshade. Like I said, I hope this was insightful. It's probably going to drive you insane, but if it works, you're going to go, oh, that's just genius. That just comes from years of doing this. So, but all right, well, I'm going to jump off of here. I'm going to go home, go to bed. It's been a long day. I've been up since 3. So you guys have a good night. Oh, and I know I'm going to say your name wrong. Schmipley or whatever, if you're still here, thank you for the coin. Or the 100 coins. I appreciate it. Dylan, nice to see you around. I knew you were here somewhere. You was working on a Lego set. So, anyways, you guys have a good night. Talk to you later.